Hey everybody, it's day 11. It's day 11 of my 100 Days of Writing Creative Self-Care Challenge. Today was an interesting day. I had one of those days where if I were Eeyore, oh my goodness. Well, I kind of felt like Eeyore a little bit. Like no good things were happening. A lot of good things really happened. But it was just a little uncanny how I just kept hitting these little obstacles in my day. But anyways, here we are. And speaking of obstacles, there's writing yet to be done. And yesterday I continued to work on my reviewing and edit, had to work on a few scenes. Still, let's see, I'm definitely into Act 2, so to speak. And last night we were talking about Act 1 and the 5 signposts that make up Act 1 of the 14 scene signposts that create a great plot structure, as I learned from the suspension bridge theory of plot structure from James Scott Bell. So last night we talked about, on day 10, we talked about the first signpost, which was disturbance. What starts making this interesting? Why do we want to read on? There's a disturbance that happens initially with our characters and makes us like, what's this all about? Signpost 2 is the care package. That's when the character cares about something more than herself, about someone other than herself, I should say. And it could be subtle or symbolic, or it can be more tangible. And as I was telling you guys about my story, A Dark Place of Promise, and again, we're talking about fiction here. These are all for fiction writing. It's just one way of creating plot structure, and it's very you see it again and again in movies, and that's what's I really enjoy about this structure that James Scott Bell lays out for us as amateur writers. So anyways, number 1, disturbance. Number 2, the care package, when the character, the protagonist, cares about someone more than herself. And then number 3 was trouble brewing. And, in my story, some Confederates show up in the middle of the night to my protagonist's house, which puts her parents immediately on edge. And she's not really sure why. So the disturbance level goes way up, right? So we're still in Act 1, and there are two more signposts. And number 4 is argument against transformation. And this one, I think I struggled with this one a little bit. Like, it had to be really, when I was writing A Dark Place of Promise initially, and was going back and looking at where I'd placed these signposts, like I mentioned previously, I found that there were a lot that I'd already placed that were in place that were intuitive, because I'm such a huge movie fan and I love stories, and so they kind of are innate. But this one, argument against transformation, is when the main character of our story argues against the theme story or the story's lesson. Ultimately, in A Dark Place of Promise, what Rebecca is struggling with is, and she's, not that she isn't a good person and she doesn't want to serve others and, does have that kind of character. This is during the Civil War, her and her mom volunteer in the infirmary in town. They're good folks and they want to do that. But in the heat of the moment, she just wants her and her parents to come with her and make a run for it. But when I first was writing about this transformation or argument against transformation, this particular signpost, I was like, is that enough? And for Act 1, there's this, what's going on? Why is this important? Why do we have to stand our ground? Let's all just make a run for it, and we'll all survive this night, and these bad guys that show up. So, Rebecca makes that argument with her parents and trying to get them to come with her when they ask her to flee in the midst of this trouble brewing. So The fifth signpost of Act 1 is really important, and this should be about 20% into your Act 1, and it's the first doorway of no return. Like once the character walks through this doorway, they are never the same again. And for Rebecca, it's her parents being murdered. In this terrible disturbance, this trouble that's been brewing, at the end, her parents are murdered, and it all happens very quickly. So that's a spoiler alert, but it happens so early in the story, I don't really feel too bad spoiling it for you, because it's, the story is really about what happens next. And again, it's a doorway of no return. Rebecca is never the same after that night. So again, signpost 5 is, the first doorway of no return. And if you're thinking about that suspension bridge that I talked about, and what that looks like with the 2 pylons, each one is a doorway of no return. Those are your major points in the plot structure for the 3 acts, right? So we've been through 1 doorway of no return, and I've given you a hint that there's a second doorway of no return. So yeah, good stuff. I hope this has got you thinking about some of the stories you write, and how you can make them better, or just giving you some thoughts about how you can be more creative with them, perhaps. And maybe, like I found with my writing, there were some already in place, and they just weren't named. So that's all I have for you tonight. Tomorrow we'll jump into a structure of Act 2 and talk about some of those signposts. Again, we're at number 5 of 14, and I look forward to sharing more with you then. Now I'm going to get back to my writing. Have a great night.